Hello and welcome to week 6 of PBA. It's our last week together. We will be covering web strategy and all the things that you need to know to build a phenomenal website that not only brings new consumers to your business and brand, but keeps them on the website and converts them to clients, customers, and whatever else you ultimately may need them to be on your sites. And yeah, let's hop right in and get started. So initially, this unit was not a part of PBA, and I ended up adding it in because I realized that people don't often think about all the small intentional details that go into building their websites. And I wanted to make sure that every touch point of your business was comprehensive. More often than not, people just start their websites, they want to get something up and they're missing out on all the key things that they need to be doing to make sure that the website can actually convert customers. It isn't just there. You don't realize how much traffic you could potentially be losing when people come visit your website. One of the things I always encourage people to do is set their website up on Google Analytics so they can see how much traffic they're getting, but not only how much traffic they're getting, they can see what their bounce rate is, which is how many people are bouncing off your website after they visit. And really learning to understand your website data, see who's coming to visit and who's staying and what they're doing while they're there. And so when building a website, there are a bunch of key factors that more often might get ignored in favor of aesthetics, features, making things flip, spin, shine, flash, and all those features are nice. But the ultimate goal of your website should be to lead your users down a very specific pathway to an ultimate goal. And so there are 3 areas of focus that you want to be looking at when you're talking about building your website. And that is focusing on your business basics, which is like the goals of your website and the basic goals of your business. I want to talk about your website platform, what platform it's hosted on, and the features and functionality of that platform. And then the ultimate functionality that you like your website to have. And I mean, every single little detail, every single thing you want your website to be able to do, you should know before you start building your website. So these screenshots down here, the screenshots from the actual forms that I use when I'm intaking clients. I will walk through this one with them. I will get as much detail as I can so you can read over here, but we'll also be breaking that down in the next couple of slides so you all can see exactly what information that I collect from my clients. So first things first, business basics. I want you all to think back to week 1 of PBA, that long 6 weeks ago, and think about all those business basics, that mission and vision that we defined, the ultimate goals of your business year, what do you do and why do you do it? All of those things should be reflected in your website, directly reflected. Your website should not be an entirely separate entity that does not align with the rest of your visual brand and doesn't align with the rest of your brand messaging. So there are a couple of different things that you're going to want to focus on. First being the type of website that you would like to have. What do you want to be able to do? Do you want a portfolio style website? Do you want a website where people can donate? Do you want just images? This is an informational website. Do you want a membership based website? Do you want an e-commerce website? Overall, core based functionality is the first thing you want to focus on. From there, we're going to talk about the primary functions of your business, and that's what do you do, because that's going to determine what else your website needs to be able to do and what you want your website to reflect. From there, we talk about, like I said, your mission, your vision, and your goals. Those goals, like I mentioned on the last slide, is what ultimately leads your website to its success and your clients of things. So what ultimate goals do you have for your website? And then we'll also talk about your target audience, because that will determine how you lay out your site aesthetically and the language you use in your copy. And finally, your competitors. What are your competitors doing on their website? What do you like about their sites? What do you dislike about their sites? What works, what doesn't? So I have 2 separate sites here that both have very different purposes. First things first, I have a website I did for the 2-6 Project, a nonprofit based out of Fayetteville. And they are a nonprofit that focuses on athletics in their hometown. And so one of the things was that we really wanted to get the word out. It's a very information-based website where all we needed people to be able to do was donate, contact, and to learn more about the organization, who's involved, who the members are, who the board is, and what kind of activities are hosting. So it is solely an informational website. For Eliza Photography, on the other hand, this is a portfolio style website that also includes booking information and the ability to do e-commerce and buy prints. I knew that when we began this building journey. So every aspect of the website was designed around making sure that their ultimate goals were met, which either is giving information and growing awareness of the organization or securing bookings and showing off amazing, beautiful photography work. From there, we're going to get into the nitty gritty, which is website function. Once you've established your strong brand direction for your site, but before you can decide what platform you want to build on, you need to be very clear about what functions you want your website to be able to handle and what information you want it to hold. And so I have an example of 2 different websites. I'm going to break down about those websites, what type of different functionality I have for them. But in addition to that, we're also going to talk about the potential site functions that you could have, as well as the standard page types that you need to consider having on your site. So one of the first functions is a newsletter function. Do you want to be able to collect emails and send out stuff to a mailing list? From there, we also have a booking function. Do you want people to be able to book directly through your website? Do you want to have to go through another website, a Calendly or an Acuity? Do you want something like that integrated into your site? We also have e-commerce. If you want people to be able to check out and spend money and run that through your site, that is a very important functionality to know and to define that very, very early on. It's going to determine what platforms you're using. From there, we have things like membership portals. People have a backend where they can log in and communicate as members of your site and kind of build and foster community. You also have people the ability to complete applications and submit them somewhere. You have people who want galleries on their website, people who want social media integrations, blog, interactive entertainment, things like gaming websites, as well as videos and streaming platforms. All of these potential site functions have to be built, controlled, and managed differently. Therefore, you need to be highly aware as the owner of your website, and even if, especially as the designer of your website, that you want these functionalities for your website so you can choose your platform accordingly and make sure that it's all integrated, not overwhelming, and aesthetically laid out. In addition to that, we have standard page types. You always want to make sure that you have a home page, which is kind of like the home base for everything. A little bit of everything goes on your home page. Your about page so people can know more about you, your organization, and your brand, your services or shop page, a contact page, and then any legal and policies that your store, brand, business may hold. All of that should be housed somewhere on your website. So I'm going to show you this website over here. This was a website called Powered by Xerit. They were a business grant organization, and they really wanted to be able to submit applications through their website. So that was one of the main functionalities we focused on there, as opposed to Shopland Health, which was an e-commerce store. We wanted to make sure that she had a really nice e-commerce built out. And all that, they're built and designed very, very differently to take users on a different journey. So their home pages look different. Their services pages all look different. If they're frequently asked questions, those look different. And so we're gonna walk through, after we go through our slides, we're gonna walk through just a few of my different websites that I've done, so you can kind of see based on what the ultimate goals of that website were, how it was laid out. And lastly, we're going to talk about web hosting and the big four web hosts that I like to consider them too, and kind of some pros and cons of both as you're thinking about it. So first things first, we have the one that most people know of, and that is Shopify. Shopify is the e-commerce giant. It pretty much everything you would potentially need to sell, Shopify has natively already built into their platform, and they have lots and lots of plugins to add added features. But on the con side of Shopify, they do come at typically a higher cost because so much stuff is built in native. They're not very DIY friendly. It's kind of heavily code based, and their functionality is kind of limited. So if you want members portals and templates and crazy build outs and blogs, it's a little bit more difficult to do, especially if you're a beginner on Shopify. Next up, we have Wix. That is my site, and all these are sites that I built for clients. So I've built on all four platforms, so I'm very familiar with how all of them run. Next up, we have Wix. Wix is actually what my site is currently hosted on. Wix is extremely beginner friendly, but can go from like very standard basic websites to very complex, very beautifully laid out websites. They have extremely flexible functionalities. There's a lot you can do with Wix and a lot you can embed into Wix and plug into Wix. And they have multiple pricing options, so you can pretty much price upon your needs. So if you don't need an e-commerce functionality, you won't be paying an added upcharge. For me, I don't use e-commerce directly through my site. Therefore, I don't have to worry about doing that. But I can integrate other things like Samcart and other shopping things to make people able to check out. Cons, Wix can look very DIY, very do-it-yourself. They don't have a lot of unique templates, and they're not as robust in terms of kind of super crazy flexible functionality and features. But they do have a new platform that's a part of Wix called Editor X, and Editor X is looking to fill those gaps. So if you kind of want to play around with it in terms of like figuring out responsiveness and mobile responsiveness, all that stuff, I think that is a great option, especially for beginners. Next up, we have WordPlus, but I put a plus with it because WordPlus, you generally want to use some sort of web builder with it that will handle your HTML code for you. So the nice thing about WordPress is there are pretty much endless functions and endless plugins to pretty much turn your WordPress site into anything. WordPress sites can look so different from one another because they just have so much functionality. And with WordPress, you're also self-hosting, which means you get to choose your own web host, which means you have better control of your pricing. There is not one standard price. So you can pretty much have your website hosted on whatever core hosting platform you want to have. Things like Bluehost or Flywheel. There are tons and tons of options on where your site is hosted. But for cons, you do generally need a builder plugin if you're not coding. Things like Elementor or Divi are great builders. I use Elementor Pro, and those do come at their own cost points to use. Generally, some basic HTML is required. In my mind, you have to know a little bit of code just in case anything goes wrong. And WordPress can tend to not be as user-friendly if you're not very familiar with website building. And last but not least, although it is my least favorite personally, is Squarespace. Squarespace is extremely beginner-friendly. They have tons of standard templates, and they have a lot of strong native integrations in terms of e-commerce, in terms of mailing lists. A lot of that stuff is built directly into Squarespace. But on the con side, they can be pretty hard to customize. They look very cookie cutter. And to do really unique things, you need to hire a developer, or you need to purchase a template from someone outside of Squarespace. So those are the basics of web strategy. In the next video, you'll see me going through a couple of sites and talking about what I did on those sites, kind of differentiate. And yeah, we'll go from there. Always let me know in the Facebook group if you have any questions, and I will see you in the next video.